Hello, everyone, and welcome to the class. This is David A. Cox with PCClassesOnline.com. We are live right now. We have an audience tuning in from all over the world, several people in different parts of Canada, all over the United States, one from Spain, etc. So today we are going to be talking about the basics of Microsoft Excel. Now the version that I'm going to be showing you all of this on today is the Mac version, specifically the 2011 version. That being said, I do want to make it clear, Excel has basically been the same program for the last 10 years. So don't worry, even if you're on a slightly different version, even if you're on a PC version, everything I'm going to show you today translates. Because after all, Microsoft makes Excel for Mac. So let's go over that. First of all, if you do not have a copy of Microsoft Excel, I just want to give you a quick couple little bits of information. If you have a Mac, okay, and you go to our little website at PCClassesOnline.com, you may have noticed that we have a store where we basically direct you to where to get everything. Now, this store only works if you live in the United States. If you're a member of PC Classes, you know how to do this already if you live in a different country. But here you'd go into either PC software or Mac software. The big tip that I want to give is if you are a Mac user, you actually can run the 2008 version on the Mavericks operating system, which as of today's date is the current version. And it's a great way, as you can see here, to save quite a bit of money. $69 versus $143. Please be aware these prices fluctuate daily, sometimes hourly. So if you go and you see a different price, there's nothing I can do about that. These are all actually from Amazon.com. However, when you buy through our store or using our little specialty link, we just get a small commission. It's about 4%. But if you are looking to pick up a copy, those are two options. The other thing that you can do now is Microsoft has come out with a thing called Office 365, which is a subscription-based program. I should actually probably open that back up, give you a tip about that. And so Office 365 on their website, on Microsoft's website, it's $99 a year, I believe it is. You can actually get it through our website for less. I'm going to go into the PC software here for that example. I believe I put it here. Yep. So Microsoft's website, $99. Our website, $63 and change. Again, those prices do tend to fluctuate. The advantage of Office 365, the only real big advantage to it, is if you happen to own an iPad, you really can't use any of the Office suite unless you are a subscriber to Office 365. So it's an option there. That being said, I don't know a lot of people who like to do documents on an iPad. It's not really what it's designed to do. It's designed to be a mobile consumption device. So I tend to recommend just get the software. And when you think about it, they really only come out with a new version of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, usually about every 3 years or so. I think the last Mac version was 2008. I want to say it was 8. Yes, it was 8, 9, 10, 11. So yeah, every 3 years. So you figure if you're paying $65 and that's a discount times 3, it's actually cheaper to buy the software all at once, even if you pay the higher price for the 2011 version. So we're going to go over Microsoft Excel. Again, this is a class of basics. We're not going over anything, too advanced. So when you first open up Excel, you're brought to this page right here, which is your workbook gallery. And so your workbook gallery is where you can find templates, and templates are definitely the magic bullet to using Excel. When we taught this class live the other day on Wednesday, we had a bunch of questions from people, which I'm factoring into today's. For example, there was a gentleman who owned a small business and said he wants to use Excel to calculate how to pay his employees. So they have like a time card, and it says, okay, they came in at this time, they went out at this time, factor in their pay rate, here's what they get. This is where definitely templates are a lifesaver. So if you go here on the left-hand side, you'll see there is one called All, and these, I want to make clear, these are just the ones that come on the computer. These are not all of them. To get all of them, you go under this little tab here, and if you see an arrow over here, like you see next to where it says Online Templates, and it's pointed to the right, just click on it to open it up. And these are all the different categories that you'll find for online templates. So in his case, I went down here to timesheets, And you'll see here we have 9 different templates for different types of timesheets. Okay, and so this is the easiest way to get all of that information in, because if you've used Excel before, the most difficult portion of Excel is the different codes that you need to know, the formulas rather. So this just does it all for you. The formulas have already been figured out. You just plop in your information and it calculates it all for you. It's definitely a very big tip I can give you today. So let's right now just go into a blank Excel workbook, okay, and just start to go through the different parts of the program. So this, what you see up here at the very top, these icons, hold on, I'm going to just make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to go to 200%. This that you see at the very top part is referred to as the toolbar. It's been there since they started creating Excel. Many of these you'll already be familiar with, and we'll go through them. We're going to go through the most important ones, I should note. We're not going through every single feature that Excel has to offer, because that would be ridiculous and this video would be 3 hours long. My goal today is to help you understand the basics of Excel so that most people, what they need to do, you can accomplish. So up here we have the toolbar. If you want to customize it, if there's some sort of a function, if there's something that you need to do that doesn't come up here at the very top, one of the things you can do is right-click in this gray space up here. Now, PC users, you have a right-click. Mac users, it's technically referred to as a secondary click. So if you are on a laptop, you are typically going to be clicking with 2 fingers present on your trackpad, or you can hold down the Control key, not Command, Control, and click, and you'll get those series of additional options. And if you look here at the very bottom, we have customized toolbars and menus, and so you can go through that and add whatever you want. That being said, for most people, the way this comes is just fine. So let's start with going over what some of these icons do. The one all the way at the top left is to create a new workbook, a blank document. Okay, so if you need to start fresh, that's one way you can do it. This next button over here will just open back up your template browser. So if you want to pull something in from Microsoft's online templates, you can find them here. I'm actually going to go over something here regarding the online templates and then get back to where we were in just a moment. Funny thing is that I'm showing you this right now using the 2011 software. However, I found that the templates that are designed for the brand new Office 365, from what I have tested, work just fine in this software. And so the URL to get all of these templates is very long and complicated. So what I've done is I've shortened it for you. If you're watching this video right now on YouTube or on our website at pcclassesonline.com, you're going to see a URL pop up on your screen. For those of you who are in fact here live, if you want to jot this down, I always recommend having a piece of paper and a pen handy when you take our classes. I've created a short link for you. It's tinyurl.com/PCO, that's PC Classes Online, Excel templates. And if you go to that link, it will redirect you to the page on Microsoft's site where you'll find everything. Okay? So you can check that out if you want to have access to even more templates here. Getting back to where we were, next we have the Open button. So if you have a document that you've been working on, this will open up your browser window and you can tell it where that document is. The other thing that you can do is if you end up going back and forth between documents commonly, another trick is you can go here to File at the very top left of Excel, and you'll see here that we have Open Recent. Okay, so this will bring you to anything that you've just recently been working on, and it'll pull that right back in. Next here we have the little floppy disk image. I don't know why it's still a floppy disk. I don't remember the last time I saw a floppy disk. Unfortunately, though, I do remember them. I was born in the 80s. So that is your Save button, of course. So if you're working on a document and you need to save it, you just simply click that. Next we have the printer icon. So if you just want to quickly print it out, boom, there you go. Next we have our Cut, Copy, and Paste options right here. We're going to be going over later today some of the most common hotkeys used to accomplish these things, so don't worry about that. Other couple little things I'm going to go over. We do have an Undo button, but there's a universal key that's a little bit easier for that. This icon that you see right here that looks a little bit like a sort of like a backward, sort of like a weird E. We're going to go over that later. We have A, Z, and then a down arrow. That is for sorting data. So let's say you're a teacher and you put in all of your students' names. You're trying to create an attendance list. You click that and it'll sort it alphabetically. Okay. A couple other things I want to make sure we go over here. We have your zoom function. So if you have trouble viewing these little cells here, you can just increase the zoom. This does not increase how large it will print. This is just your viewing preferences. That's all. If you do not see this little bar below, you don't really need it so much anymore because most of it's down here. But some people like this bar up here. That's just, you can get that back by going to View, Toolbars, Formatting. Okay, I'm going to actually take it out since it is pretty much all covered here. Now this bar that you see below the toolbar is referred to as the ribbon. Okay, and there are different tabs to this ribbon. It starts off on Home, then we have a Layout, Tables, Charts, etc. And those are all ribbons where you're going to find shortcuts to different features. So for example, under Home, I'm going to go over really just the important ones here. Clear, so if you have a lot of cells that have data and you need to just wipe them all out, you can just highlight them and hit clear. Very, very easy way to do it. We have your classic bold, italic, and underline options, as well as your fonts up here, your different font types, and your font size. This button next to font size is just to increase or decrease the font size. It'll go up 1 point every time you click it. Below those, we have a paint, sort of a fill color button. It's a little paint can. So if I need to highlight something, let's say I'm putting my total invoice here, I can click on this. It'll make that cell yellow. Now, if you ever want to change the color, you'll see here that next to it there's like a little arrow. When you click on that, that pulls up your different colors. So if I want it to be orange, I can just switch it over to orange. Next to the fill icon, we have the color of the font itself. So if you want to make your font red or yellow or whatever you want, you can do the same thing here, just to the font. Alignment options. So this top portion here is you're telling it where in the cell is your text going to be. Sometimes people will stretch out the cells so that they're a little bit larger. So this part here will align it to the top, this part to the middle, this part to the bottom. This is just your orientation, so if you want it to be aligned to the left, center, or right, those are your options right there. Again, kind of skipping over a few options here. Here under cells, so sometimes when you're working with, especially I found with numbers, like I was just creating an invoice the other day for a client of mine, and I had quite a few different items I needed to put in. Sometimes you need to add a row. One of the ways that you can do it is by clicking over here to insert a row, or you can insert, of course, a column. You can delete cells or rows right next to it. Okay. Format. So format, we don't really need to go over that, I don't think. Let's go over now the next little tab here in the ribbon, which is the Layout tab. Okay. So these are some really basic things. You're going to pretty much set it and forget it. But in terms of the page orientation, sometimes more commonly with Excel than with Word, you may want your page to be horizontal as opposed to vertical. This is one place where you would go for that. So you can just swap your orientation from portrait into landscape mode. Landscape mode is when it's longer. Portrait mode is when it's taller. Also, you can change the different fonts, the page size, paper size, and the margins, page breaks. I don't know anyone who uses backgrounds in Excel. Why would you? Headers and footers, very few people tend to use that too. Let's go here into tables. Tables is when you're dealing with, especially when you have a lot of data, and you just need it to have a certain flow to it so that it's easier on the eyes. As you start to get more and more numbers, it can be kind of hard to see where they line up. So in order to create a really simple table, all you have to do is click here. Now all of these little boxes that you see are called cells. So what you could do is you'd typically start at A1 and just drag down. So click and drag. Then you can choose the different color tables here. So like let's go with blue. And you can see here when I put in my data, it's just going to be a little bit easier to follow everything, okay? Because it puts this line, these lines of blue in there. Okay, let's get rid of that. Next here we have charts, and we're going to be going over this in a little bit. Smart art, I don't think we need to really go over. I don't know many people who use it. If there's any requests to go over that, we can, but I didn't see any the other day. Formulas. Okay, so the big part of Excel is formulas, and this is the part that tends to freak out most people. So you're going to be telling it these formulas. For example, the most 5 common formulas out there are sum, average, count, maximum, and minimum. Let me give you a few examples of how these might come into play. Sum is a formula you would use typically in an invoice. So you have this item plus this item plus this item. Average, I think we all know what that is. If you have, let's say you're doing a graph of temperatures, you want to find out what was the average temperature in March. You would put in all the different temperatures for each day, put in a formula function for the average, and find out what that number is. Count would be how many items are there. So if there's 30 entries, it's going to tell you there are 30 entries. And then finally, maximum and minimum, it just tells you what the highest number was and what the lowest number was. Those tend to come into play when you're dealing with a lot of data entry. So if you have thousands of numbers and you need to know what was the maximum number ever used, it would come into play. So let's go over a little bit. I'm just going through my little notes here. I want to go over navigation just to give you a few tips in Excel. So when you're typing in information here, and I'm going to just create some dummy information here for you. Let's say we are making a chart about temperatures, okay? So I'm going to do it, let's just say it's temperature averages for different months over different years. So the first thing I want to go over is how to navigate quickly between these different cells, okay? So when you're creating information, typically, most people actually leave cell A1 blank in most cases, because what's going to happen is you're going to have your categories. Some of your categories are going to be up here starting at B1 and go across, and others are going to start at A2 going down. So let's say in my different columns, I'm going to have the different years. So I'll put 2010. Now, instead of using my arrow keys on my keyboard or clicking to go over here to C1, the fast way to go from this cell over here is tapping the Tab key. That's usually the key that would be just above caps lock on your keyboard. So when I tap Tab, it goes over. Now if I want to go down, so let's click over here to A2. So let's say I'm going to put my months here. So I'll put January. The fast way to move down in Excel is to hit the Return or Enter key. So every time I tap that, it bumps down one. So we'll go to February, March. Okay? So now let me just quickly put in some information here. Okay, just typing in numbers. Let's go over now from here how to do some of the other little functions. Okay, so let's say I just told you those 5 most common formulas people use: sum, average, count, minimum, maximum. Let's say I want to right now, let's do average first because of the kind of data we're going through here. If I want to calculate the average temperature, I'll first put in average temperature. For January, here is how you always start a function. You always start it with tapping the equals key. So for many of you, that's going to be right next to the delete key. Well, at least on Mac users, it's going to be at the top right of your keyboard. But technically, it's the same for PC users too. So when you hit the equals key, you're telling the computer you want to do some sort of a function. Now, what's really helpful is that when you start to type in the name of the function, it's going to autofill it for you. So I just have to hit in actually the letter A in my case, because I've done this before. And here it has average. It pops right up. Okay? So now I just simply tap on that. And now it's automatically inserted these parentheses, an open parentheses and a close parentheses. So now I need to tell it what is it factoring in to average. So there's a couple ways I could do this. I could click on each individual cell, or I could click here where it says 23, and I can hold my Shift key and click on the D2 key. Now if you look up here, this bar is where you are going to find your formula. So it says equals average B2 colon. The colon means that it's through D2. When I hit the Enter key, there's your average. So if I, for whatever reason, forget about the fact that these are temperatures, let's say I wanted to add them. All I would do is I'd once again hit the equals key, and this time I'd hit the letter S for sum. And there it pops right up. Okay. As you will see here, there are a ton of different types of formulas. It would be crazy for us to go over all of them because, after all, we have a limited amount of time, and I'm an idiot at math, very admittedly. So all you do is click sum. Once again, we click here. We can hold the Shift key, click on the last item. So now it tells it B2 through D2, and there is the total of those. If I wanted to do it for the count, maximum or minimum, it's the exact same function. Now what I want to do is I want to give you a shortcut for all of this because not everyone can remember, to total it, you have to use the word sum because most people think the word total, at least that's what I would think. So there is a faster way to do this. The other way to get access to those 5 most common functions is this. What you do is with your cursor, you'd start at your first item, click, drag so that you highlight the other items, and then go just one more so that you have a blank cell at the very end. And you could be doing this vertically or horizontally. It doesn't make a difference. Now watch this. Remember how we skipped over this little symbol right here? When you click on the arrow next to it, here are those 5 most common formulas. So all I do is click sum, and it did it for me, and I didn't have to put in any code. That being said, if I actually click on the cell, if you look in the formula bar, it did insert the code for me. Okay, just a really easy thing to remember. So sometimes when I'm dealing with items, I need to make some sort of a modification. So let's say now over here, again, please just forget about the fact that we're dealing with temperatures and just look at these as numbers instead. I'm actually going to delete those. So let's say that E, column E right here is a total of column B, or cell B2, C2, and D2. And now F needs to take that number, the 78 number, and factor in something else. Let's say I need to add sales tax or something like that. The way you would do that is very simple. You'd hit the equals key, tell it what cell you're dealing with here. So now I would just click here on E2, and I could tell it, for example, let's forget about the sales tax thing. Let's just say I need that number times 10. So then what I could do is hit times, which is shift and the number 8, for that little star symbol, 10. And now when I hit enter, there I have the number. So you can modify all these formulas. You can go, you don't have to stop at just adding. You can still add in other functions too. And I could have done that right here just by, I could keep going. I'd say add the times symbol, 10, again, hit enter, and I'd get the exact same number. Okay, next thing I want to do is I want to show you what happens if you're working with numbers. Oops, sorry about that. What happens if you're working with numbers here and you need to factor something else in? So let's say I'm adding these numbers and I figured out, oops, I need to add another column in. The easiest way that I've always done it is, let's say I need something to go between C and D right here. I would click on the D column right here. And you'll notice that when I do that, it selects everything. So if I go up here and I right click, or again, Mac users, secondary click, once again, I get that series of additional options. You'd go here to insert, and you can see here it bumped everything over. So now I have an extra column that I can start to work with here. Okay? Now if I add in a number, let's say I add in 5, you will notice that this formula updated automatically. I didn't need to tell it, hey, make sure you factor in this too. It's now automatically updated that feature. And if you look up here, it's now B2 through E2. Just another thing to be aware of. Same thing applies, by the way, for your different rows. If you have a row here, you need to add something in. Just, again, secondary or right click, hit Insert. You'll add in another item. Also, when you're dealing with Excel, sometimes you need more space than you have right here. It's really, really easy to adjust these. There's a couple of different ways that you can do it. So let's say I need to increase the size of this column. If you actually put your cursor between B and C, you'll notice that my cursor turns into this, it looks like two arrows pointing in opposite directions with that line in the middle. Now all I have to do is click down and drag. And it's actually showing me right now in inches how large this is going to be when I print it out. So let's say I need it to be 2 inches long. This is also handy when you're making a form that you need to print out. Say you need to put someone's name. You want to make sure you give them enough room to actually type in their name. So there you have it right there. Same thing applies for dealing with different rows. Just drag that down. And I do want to review, remember up here in the ribbon, this button right here will align the text to the bottom. This will bring it to the middle. This will bring it to the top. Very handy when you're dealing with text information, especially when I'm adding in line items that I sell through my small business. Sometimes I need to change these up, make them a little bit larger, and just make sure that they look clean. Because if you have everything aligned to the bottom, it just, I don't know, it just kind of looks weird, I've always thought. Okay. A couple other things I want to go over here. Let's see. I'm actually going to go through the questions here that people are submitting and just see if there's anything that... Is there an easy way to create a template where you want a sum total of your columns and rows without having to apply the sum formula to each column and row individually? Interesting question. I don't know of any template that has that, but it's easy enough to do. You just simply would use that little shortcut that I showed you a minute ago. Where you just, highlight your numbers, go up here to this icon, and hit sum. So you just do that for each one. Very, very simple. Let's see here. Let's go over the different charts. I think that would be a good thing to go over. I'm going to just tweak this information here, just so we have something a little bit better to work with. Okay. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so I've just got some numbers here. So now I want to show you how to make a chart. Let's go back to our kind of little metaphor. Let's say that this is 2010, 2011. Oh, here's another, before we do that, another trick I want to give you. Let's say there's a pattern, okay? So in this case, I'm doing different years. Well, in this example I'm giving you, I only have 4 years, but what if you're doing this over the course of 50 or 100 years? Here's a little trick. So on the PC, if you hold your Control key and you click on a second cell, it'll highlight both. Mac users, it's the exact same, but it's the Command key. So when you do that, you've got now both of these highlighted. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I just said Command or Control. I meant Shift. My bad. We're live. Click on the first item, hold the Shift key, click on the second item. You see that teeny tiny little square at the bottom? And when I put my cursor over it, my little crosshair turns black. Anytime you do that, it's basically saying it's detecting a pattern. I can now drag to the right, and it's going to automatically, I can just keep going as far as I want, and it's automatically going to factor in the numbers. Okay, for this, I'm just going to highlight, let me just put this back in, January, February, March. So I'm just going to highlight all of these cells, and now I want to tell the computer to make a chart from this information. It's very, very simple. All you have to do is go here to the Chart tab on your ribbon, and here are all the different types of charts you have. And pretty much almost all of these have two different versions. They have just a 2D version and a 3D version. 3D tends to be a little bit more visually impressive. Also, when you're dealing with things like pie charts, as an example, an exploded pie chart, here we have a 3D exploded pie chart, can tend to help you visually if you're giving a presentation, that kind of a thing. But for this, we're just going to use I think we can just use a typical graph. So let's just do here, let's do just a 3D area. So there we have it. We have a 3D graph. It doesn't really work for this one. Let's undo that. Let's do instead, Let's actually do columns. I think that might look a little bit better. There we go. So just by doing that, here we have our little simple table. And if you need to alter any information in here, if you actually change the numbers up here, you will see that they will adjust in real time. You don't have to go creating the chart again. Also, you can reposition this. If you put your cursor at towards the top left area, see how my cursor now has those 4 arrows? I can now drag it wherever I want. If I need to make it maybe a little larger or smaller, for that you can put it sort of down here at the corner. I tend to use the bottom right or bottom left corner, but you can actually do any. And now you can click and drag to make it smaller or larger. For other data that you may need to alter in this particular chart, just right-click, or again, Mac users, secondary click, and you'll see here we have things where you can actually save this as a template. I don't know why you'd want that. But you can also format chart area, change the chart type, etc. Okay. I want to make sure I covered that. Let's see here, other items. Really the big part, I think, to getting through Excel and making it easier for you is use those templates. They are just so much easier as opposed to having to input data manually. It makes it very easy. Plus, you can modify templates, which brings me to a point. I'm going to actually go into a template right now, and I want to show you how to modify a template so that it better fits what you do. So let's go into online templates. I'm going to go here into timesheets. Again, there are different types of timesheets depending on what kind of business you have. Let's just say I go here into employee timesheet as an example. Okay, give me a second here. I just want to make this a little bit larger. So let me go into view. Okay. I don't know why it's not letting me zoom up on that. Maybe if I go in here. Nope, it isn't. Here we go. Sorry. 200. Too big. 150. Better. Okay. So let's say I'm putting in my data here, and the whole point of the template is that it's something that you do commonly, but you're just going to change data now and then. For example, one of my 3 businesses is we actually rent our home out on homeaway.com in the summer. So what we do, we don't use Excel, but we use Word for this, is we have a template contract. So the idea is that when we have a new renter coming in, we can just open up the template, put in that person's name, the dates that they're coming in, the prices, and everything else is already set up for us. So with this, you can do basically the same thing. So let's say I want to add in maybe the name of the business here instead of, or put it in one of these cells here. Again, just kind of an example. So what I can do is in this template, I can put in the name of my business. So we'll call it, in this case, we'll just put PC Classes Online. Okay, I could change that to a funky font and center it, etc. But when you modify a template to the way you want it, you should really go through this and make sure it's looking good. Okay, then all you have to do is go to File. Once you have it right, come on. Sorry, just go to Save. That's the easiest way. Just go to Save, and here where it says Format, you can change it into a Excel template. So now I am taking a pre-existing template, modifying it, and saving it as my template. So let's just call it PCO Employees. Okay? So when I save that file, watch what happens. Let's not save that. You see up here at the top of my template chooser, it says My Templates. That is where you will now find I have my new modified template. Okay. Let's see. Just going through a few other questions here that I'm seeing people are getting. One of the things that we get pretty commonly from people who attend our live classes, if you have a DSL internet connection, DSL doesn't really support video. It's a big difference between cable internet and DSL. So some people have a little bit of a trouble of a visual delay. I think what I would like to do is, we've gone over a good chunk of Excel here. I do need to go over some copy and paste functions. I think that's going to be important. Let me just once again zoom in so you all can see this. So let's go over, let's just throw in some numbers here. Okay, so let's say I have data here. I'm going to just turn it into a table really quickly. Once again, go to the ribbon, pick whatever color you want. Okay, so let's turn that into a table. And let's say I need to copy and paste it. I need to move this around. Okay, so the easy way to do this, I want to give you access to some of the most common hotkey combinations to really help you just move through Excel, get things done faster than going up here to the ribbon. So first I want to show you the basics, copy and paste, and then I'm just going to go through the alphabet and give you all the basic ones. So to copy and paste anything, for the most part, you're going to highlight the data that you're dealing with. Now, Mac users, anytime you're dealing with a hotkey combination, you're pretty much always going to be using your command key. PC users, where I say command, just know that on your computer it's control. So I'm going to give you all of these as Mac formulas, but just please, if you're a PC user, understand you don't have a command key. For you, it's the control key. So to copy is just simply you highlight these cells. Command C is copy. And now what I can do is, let's say I need to paste it somewhere else. One thing some people don't know is that all I have to do is highlight a bunch of cells. It doesn't have to be the same dimensions. It doesn't have to be 5 by 3. It can be whatever I want. And when I hit paste, which is Command V, V as in Victor, it will automatically paste that same content there. Even though I highlighted many more cells than I needed to, it knows exactly what to paste. Okay. So there we go with that. Let's go through the alphabet now, and I'm just going to give you a bunch of the most common hotkeys that you may need to know. So the first is the letter A. When you're dealing with something and you need to select everything, Command A is select all. And all of these, for the most part, apply to the whole computer. This is not just Excel. B is bold, so if I need to make my numbers bold, I highlight them, Command B in my case, and they're bold. C, we've already gone over, is copy. Let's see, I'm just going through in my mind. F is find. So let's say you're a teacher with 1,000 students and you need to just find one particular student. You might type in the name of that student. It would go down to where that person is. I'm going to show you alphabetical order, by the way, in a little bit. I didn't go over that earlier. I would be italic. So if I need to make these all look a little slanted. You don't use italic very often in Excel. It's more of something you'd use in Word or PowerPoint, but it's there. N would be a new document. It's the exact same thing as clicking up here at the top left. O is open. P, print. So if I do that, you'll see there that the printer that I use, yes, it is in fact the same printer that we sell in our store. I stand by my products that I endorse. Q is quit. So if you need to get out of the whole program, Q is quit. S, save. U would be underline. V is paste. W, I always blank on this portion here. W is a little bit different on a PC and a Mac. W on a Mac would be close this window. So if I had multiple Excel documents open, okay, W would just simply close that out. Whereas on a PC, it's, if I remember correctly, it's Alt F4. X is cut. So anytime you need to cut data, that's how you would do it. I personally almost never ever use cut. The only reason being is I usually just use what I really need access to is clear, which again is here on your little ribbon. So I can clear all. Just wipes out all the data in there. And then one of the most important ones out there is Z. So Command Z or on a PC, Control Z is undo. So if I do something like the table that I just wiped out, if I realize, oh no, I actually needed that, if I hit Command Z, it brings it back. each time you tap it, it goes back one additional step, okay? Someone just submitted a question about PC for Excel. Really, pretty much all this really is the same. There's a couple little graphics up here that may look similar, a little bit different, but really Excel has been the same program for the last 10 years, I assure you. So that is really, I think, the basics of really what... Oh, sorry, I need to go over one more thing. Let's clear all of this data out here. Clear all. Let's just go over very quickly. I'm so creative with names, aren't I? A lot of times when you're dealing with this kind of data, you do need to organize a specific column, okay? So if you tap on in this case, the A column, I have these names here that are all out of order. All you have to do is tap on that, go to the little A to Z function here, and you'll see that it automatically put it in alphabetical order. You can also tap on this little arrow next to it if you need to reverse it, for example. So if I need to go from Z to A, and it'll do that too. So what we're going to do is, for the people who are here live right now, oh God, there's always something that I forget, right? One more thing. How many times have I said that one today? Okay, there's another portion I want to go over as far as formatting cells. Helps if I do that the right way. Thank you. Let's say instead of just dealing with numbers, we're dealing with dollars. Another very important thing I need to show you how to do is how to format cells. Because your computer needs to know this is not just numbers, these are dollars after all. So I could right now, let's say I want to total all of these up. Okay, of course I would hit equals sum, and I would just go select those. Oops, helps if I do it the right way, huh? I just correct the formula there. I don't know what I did wrong there. Anyway, okay, so let's say, oh, I see what I did. Let's just go to the fast way to do it. Sum, there we go. Okay. So let's say these are actually dollars. There's an easy way to do this. So in this case, I'm going to actually highlight the entire C column, okay? And so now what I need to do is I need to tell this is not just a number, this is a dollar, okay? So the fast way that I've always done it is if you go over here on the right-hand side, see here it says number, okay? We can just change it to currency, and now it automatically adds in the dollar symbol. If you don't need the period there, you'll see that right here under this we have an arrow pointing here. So if I click that twice, it'll just round it off. It'll just be the dollar itself. It will get rid of the change portion of it. Okay? Sorry, I just want to make sure I went over that before we ended here. Okay, for those of you who are here live, I'm going to start answering all of your questions. Those of you who have been watching this on the website, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've been watching this on YouTube, one really, really easy way that you can always support us is if you click that little like button at the bottom of the video. It's a little bit like giving us a tip, and of course we appreciate it. So let's answer your questions for those of you who are here live.